You guys, we are about transforming from sales-led growth to marketing-led growth. And the reason you're probably on this call, on this little training right now, is because you've read one of the posts that either Zoe or I put on LinkedIn, which is about just that. Like, we are in the middle of this huge transformation, and it's even more interesting because of the economic and political situation going on in technology and in the world at large. And it's just a bunch of opportunity for technology companies if they can reframe and sort of shift their perspective and shift what they're doing and to alter their approach. They've got massive opportunities, because in a transition, what always happens is those who move fast according to proven formulas and proven solutions will outperform and outcompete those who don't, who are still lagging behind and doing things the old way. And doing things the old way, which in our case is sales-led growth, is going to become, is just going down the pipe, down the slide, because whenever there's transformation, change accelerates, and those who are behind will fall behind faster, and those who accelerate will accelerate faster. That's just the nature of big transitions. Okay. And the only reason that you guys are here, or one of the, you guys have to be here for two reasons. One is to understand this change and understand what's the progressive way of growing technology companies now. And number two, which is hugely valuable, is the step-by-step system on how to launch transformation that is taking you from sales-led growth to marketing-led growth. So of course, it's a huge thing, especially if your company is big, if your sales and marketing organizations are big, it's a big thing. But the hardest step is always the first one. And the first step has to be the right step, because that's what, you can only make it happen if the first step is the right step. If you start off in the wrong direction, then it's very hard to steer back and then like correct ways later on. So you want to start off in the right direction according to blueprints and concepts and solutions that have proven to work in the past. And this is what we're showing you today. And it's going to be a step-by-step thing. So I think you're going to love it. If you're serious about the thing, then you're going to love it. Okay. What is sales-led growth, and what the hell is wrong with it? So we haven't really defined sales-led growth. And I'll just leave it at this for the moment. It's using a sales-first approach to getting clients and customers for technology companies. Okay, so it's the sales-first motion. And if you want an analogy, this approach, this mindset has been around for a while, probably even prior to IBM in 1949. Okay, but if you think about it, if you know a little bit about IBM's history, it's how they grew. They got salespeople, and salespeople went out and sold to companies. They knocked on doors, and then obviously the methods later got sophisticated. They started using the phone, the telefax. They had telefax marketing. How cool is that? Imagine. And of course, they didn't have slideshows. They had one of those projectors, that I had when I was in school, and PowerPoint wasn't really around. So they had these projectors, these like light beaming projectors. So they were using that to sell. And obviously then the internet came and everything, but the approach, the mindset behind it stayed the same, which is, let's figure out who should buy our stuff and let's try to sell to them. And it was always a one-on-one thing. And of course, later marketing came along and tried to assist sales along the way, but the approach, the mindset just remained the same. And what ended up happening to marketing is what you see over here on the screen, which is basically sales giving orders to marketing, and marketing not really taking part in the go-to-market strategy, marketing playing a secondary role. And it worked. It worked for a while, and it still works in some industries. It might work, so to say, in your industry, but that doesn't mean that that you can continue to grow that way. Okay. So as long as you have, if you're in sales right now and you're sitting on this training, and you have a marketing team who is not actively taking part in researching and is constantly researching, delivering you insights, then yeah, like really pay attention and maybe share the recording with them, because this is what they need to be doing. And just in a couple of minutes, I'm going to show you a few like mini case studies of companies that really get it and that made it big time using a marketing-led approach, okay? So you cannot afford to have a marketing department that's just taking orders, and all they ask is, do you want fries with that? Like in this drive-through example here, okay? So, I went ahead of myself a little bit, but the problem with sales-led growth is that it's starting not work. And it's worth discussing, I think, some of the reasons behind this. And one is that competition is getting huge. Okay, so like IBM had no competition for a while, so they could afford to just keep using this strategy, this tactic. And now what you see is that if just look at the sales technology or the MarTech sector alone, like just for creating dashboards, there have to be like 27 different options for SaaS. Software that collects your data from several sources and then gives you comprehensive dashboards. Like every time I go on LinkedIn or Facebook, like there's a new company advertising me the solution, like Supermetrics or Dream Data and similar. So just for this one solution, there are at least 27 companies competing. And guess where everybody wants to win? They want to win in the bottom of the funnel. So they're looking for the buyers who are in buying mode. So they're fighting over the 3% of the market who are ready to buy. The more sophisticated ones, they take a step back and they fight. They try to generate demand and not try to sell straight away. But everybody else is fighting in the red ocean for buyers who are in buying mode and ready to go. Okay. The other thing is that since 1949, quite a few things have changed in societal magnitudes as well. So you now have Gen Y and Gen Z people who, by their nature, just don't want to talk to salespeople. It's not the way they research and do things. Okay, so like back in the day, what used to happen is that if you were looking for some technology solution, you just wanted to call up like 10 people and have them tell you stuff. And salespeople were great for that. Now, the role of salespeople is changing, okay, because buyers don't want that sort of interaction. Of course, they still do, and they'll forever want to be talking to salespeople, but it's going to be at different stages of the buying journey, of the buying cycle, okay? And number 3 is that companies that generate demand actually win, okay? And by generating demand, I'm talking about targeting the part of the market that is huge, that is at least 97% big of any market that is not in buying mode, and generating demand within those segments, okay? And the companies who can do this win. And I'm going to show you a company who did that very well. It's a little tiny startup called Snowflake, who in 2020, that's the date of this article from CNN, they had the biggest software IPO. Okay, you probably heard of Snowflake, and what they did is obviously they had a very sophisticated go-to-market strategy with a really good sales team, and obviously they were doing a good job in sales. But the other thing that they started doing on time in time is build an account-based marketing foundation. And if you just Google Snowflake marketing or Snowflake account-based marketing, you're going to find like a ton of articles that dissect the level of sophistication and tool by tool and process by process, how Snowflake built up basically a revenue aiding mechanism with account-based marketing. They had a very lean tech stack, and they just built this awesome mechanism, and they started teaching it at conferences. So they had a highly sophisticated marketing engine that aided them and continues to help them. Okay, so it's by no means okay. So as you can tell, so marketing in Snowflake's case doesn't stop at creating pretty material like in a sales-led culture. Okay, because in a sales-led culture and sales-led motion, marketing just keeps creating PDFs, slide decks, presentations, website, they run ads, they might do sponsorships, and that's the old school stuff. But the new school way of doing things is how Snowflake did it. Okay, so we talked so much about marketing-led growth, so I think it'd be nice of me to finally properly define it, because if you're a definitions person, like I am, like I like definitions, a comprehensive sentence about what something actually is. So marketing-led growth, I like to define it this way. It's a growth mindset and a strategy that is driven by customer insight and where people are obsessed about creating engaging buying experiences for the simple fact that it's what wins. Okay, that's the simple reason why people are obsessed about these things. Okay, so just a few things that characterize marketing-led growth, like some components of it is, one is the ongoing research, the customer research. The other is maximizing buying experiences. The third is the collaboration between not just sales and marketing, but also between sales, marketing, and customer success. And it's actually a culture, as you can see on this screen. It's a culture, so I have it on two screens. It's that important, okay? And don't mistake it for a set of tactics. So it's not like marketing-led growth isn't injecting growth hacking into your sales-led organization. That's not it, okay? So it rests on creating demand, which is what I've said about talking to the 97% of the market who are not yet in market, that don't want to buy yet, but starting to build a relationship with them and starting to educate them and engage them slowly. And it's really a different mindset because, and you'll see this, if you're a marketer on this call and you're sitting in a sales-led organization, then chances are that they always, okay, either you're doing the old school marketing motion where it's just, okay, give us a website, make it look good, have a brochure, write a press release, do PR, whatever, or they want to have you help them get leads and quantities of leads. And then whenever you start talking about the new approach, people are going to be like, okay, but is this going to help us get new leads? Which is totally understandable. And the solution that we're going to teach you just in about 10 minutes is going to also do that. But the mindset should be that, hey, we're here to generate demand, and we want to find an intelligent way to capture that demand once the customer is ready. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to create kick-ass content and awesome buying experiences. Great experiences that take people from not even being aware of their problem to realizing what their problem is, how they ought to approach it, and then choose the right vendor and the right solution, and then eventually closing them. Okay. I'm just going to stop here and let you guys, just feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions or anything else. Or really, if you have to add this, but now is a good time to stop for a breather. So
I actually meant to ask something. If you want to get a sip, I wanted to ask you. So there's like 20 folks here besides us right now on the call, and you've been talking about sales-led and marketing-led. And so my question is, just by looking at this and what you're describing, it really sounds like a marketing-led approach, and the building on the customer feedback and creating engaging content. That sounds like a lot of work. And I'm pretty sure that out of the 20 folks here, there are a bunch of them who actually are so far successful with a sales-led approach. So what would you say to them? Like, why would you change? What would be the driver inside of you that would make you want to do all of this work just to do something that sounds fancy instead of going the old way that has been proven for so many years?
Yeah, I got you. Okay, two things. The short answer to your question is what's on the screen right now, and I'm going to get into that in just a second. The other thing I wanted to mention about the people on this call is that I was so glad to see a bunch of agencies and B2B consultants sign up for this training. And the reason I love that is because there is massive demand to actually implement what we're talking about now, okay? And this transformation in the marketplace, it's going to be led by consultants and agencies. It's probably to a lesser extent by brand marketers and in-house marketers, but the driving force of this transformation is going to come not from the software vendors, not from the in-house marketers, but from consultants and agencies. So it's so awesome that you're here because we want to support you in this as well, because we can't take on every single company, right? We only have that much time. Okay, to answer your question, Zori, here, what you have on the screen is sort of proof that this thing works and that this is better than a sales-led approach, even if a sales-led approach is working for you right now. Who knows the company outreach.io? Just write a plus or something in here in the chat. If you know, yeah, you've heard of outreach.io. Yeah, everybody's heard of Outreach. You might even be using them. Okay, so they are an outbound sales tool, and it's a very pretty success story, even up to the point of this acquisition that this slide is about. Because prior to this acquisition, they grew very quickly in annual revenue to $60 million. So they grew to $60 million ARR using some marketing, very little marketing, and a lot of their own stuff, which is an outbound sales tool, okay? So it's a sales tool growing their own company with the sales tool to 60 million. And then what they decided to do is, because they saw the power of communities and marketing, they decided to invest in a community, and they bought the biggest community of salespeople out there, one of the biggest communities. It's called Sales Hacker. And they now own that community. And guess what they didn't do? They didn't start emailing them and promoting to them and selling to them. They engaged them in a very friendly and very cool and very organic and natural way. So they didn't end up killing the community which they bought. Okay, so this huge community, Sales Hacker, I wish I knew how much it was bought for, but the successful sales outreach company is actually buying a community and resorting to marketing. And you could take a look at any one of sales or outreach's competitors, such as Gong, or I don't know, even I had a look at their competitors. All the top companies, all the top sales tools, if you look at what they're doing in terms of marketing, they're kicking ass. So they'd be like the perfect case studies for B2B marketing, even though they are a sales tool. So it's not enough. After a point, it's not enough to have just an outbound sales motion and wishy-washy, like old school marketing. It's just not going to be enough. And the more competitive your market, the more you need this stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. But the tiny thing that I would add to my own question is that, what I often see is that people tend to forget, or they do realize it, they do know it, but it's just something that is not on top of their mind, is that, besides markets and businesses, channels also mature. And as channels are maturing, what you see is that at the very beginning on a new channel, you can basically just use, I'm sure a lot of people have heard or are avidly reading stuff from Ryan Deiss, or, listening to podcasts with him. And I love when he said that it's the right message in the right time, or at the right time in front of the right people. But for long, when you're on a new channel, you can just do two of those. You can just be in front of the right people at the right time. Message doesn't matter as much at that point, because it's just so new that the people gonna see you there. Basically, there's not gonna be a huge competition there. But as channels are maturing, you're gonna have to create something more, and that's when you see growth hacks and stuff. But after a while, those wouldn't really work as well. So that's when people will just keep on listening to the people who actually make sense to them and who are actually providing value to them. I think that's a major difference between like sales led and marketing led.
Right. Yeah, totally. And we have a question from Agnes. And Agnes, I think the next few slides will answer your question. So her question is about maximizing buying experiences. Can you give examples for maximizing buyer experiences? Okay, and this is part of the process. So it's coming up, but I'm glad you asked. Okay, so these are superstars, Snowflake and Outreach, and I wanted to show you another superstar, which is Clear. But we're like a tiny, minuscule service company, and nowhere near in size or sophistication or resources to Sales Loft and Outreach and Snowflake. But we were able to get some results that are good at our level. Okay, so just comparing to how much resources, like how little resources it takes after a while, after you set it up, because initially setting up a marketing led thing, and then it takes a bunch of work and time. Okay. But once you have it going, you can have a month like we did in August, from the end of July, is that I was the only one from the company doing doing marketing for us. Everybody else was on client projects because, again, we're a small company. And I actually had to take like almost 3 weeks off completely because we were moving home. But still we were able to close a bunch of money in deals in annual recurring revenue. So we had like 90.6K, and we even added an additional 123,000 euros in ARR to our pipeline. And, this was just 48 days. And just imagine like what would happen if we started actually to, do this with more people. Then if we started to optimize this, because it's not super optimized, this is just a growth experiment. And then when we really tweaked it, we're going to put advertising behind it. So what will happen then? Okay. So like this can take you really, really far, even if you're a small company. And if you're a consultant or agency watching, like, yeah, like pay attention, because it's what we're doing, and it's kicking butt for us, and we love it, and the customers love it. Okay, so what made these results happen from the marketing led growth? It's social selling, it's interactive assessments, and it's asset stacking. Okay, so Agnes, back to your question, some things that are like, when you're talking about maximizing buyer experiences, what we mean is creating interactive content and events, which we call assets, just marketing assets, and stacking them in a way that basically takes the client by the hand and leads them, or helps them go whichever direction they choose to, that will either end up coming to you or not, because that's a possibility as well. And here's where the mindset thing comes in, okay? Because so we're not creating a funnel that will force people through, okay? So that's the sales-led mindset. We want to create a funnel and just like put people in and then just push them down. No, we're creating like journeys, possible ways that they can take. We want to create, okay, think of marketing assets as stepping stones when you're trying to cross a creek. So there are many ways across. Sometimes you'll want to cross the creek. Sometimes you'll, get halfway there and then you decide not to cross, and then you come back some other way. So you want to create the possibility for the customer to self-serve themselves, while at the same time, obviously, like selling the company and creating trust and goodwill and affinity and all of that. Okay. But it's going to get a whole lot clearer, Agnes and everybody, once we get to the actual examples of what we do. Okay, so we've been talking about the transition, and if you're sitting here and you're in sales or you're in marketing and you're like, yeah, I guess we ought to start moving in this direction, then obviously preaching is not enough. So you can share posts and you can talk about it all you want. You can hire consultants and to come and talk about this and whatnot, but it's not enough. It's not going to make the big change happen, because this change is hard. So I'm going to be upfront with you. We work with clients with who we have like a really good relationship, and we've been working for over a year with some of them on this thing. And even after a year or a year and a half, like we still get questions that tell us that they're not completely getting it yet. So they're so entrenched in this old way of doing things, like these $10 million IT companies, software development companies, or, Series A startups, software startups. Like they're so entrenched in the old ways of doing things that they love this whole concept, but they're just, it's like hard for them to get like 100% on board and to understand it. Okay. So what you have to do, if you're committed to this change, is to set up experiments that will convince people, because you can talk about it all you want, but if you actually create a campaign, get results, get insight, get feedback, and share that with the team, and give the sales team an opportunity to test the leads whom you have generated, like nothing speaks louder than that. Okay. And yeah, just to summarize, getting by it is just step one, but it's not nearly enough. So people are like, oh, I have problems getting by it. And that's the easy part. Okay. So like, convincing your boss to spend 10,000 euros on an initial campaign, that's the easy part, I think. So you can probably sell it and get the buy-in. But then you have to set up the right expectations and manage the expectations. Then you have to create the actual campaign, which we can call an appetizer for the bigger stuff, or a proof of concept. And then you actually have to, have results and meet the expectations. And then you have to rinse and repeat. So you have to tell the people, okay, we're doing experiments. We're going to do the first one. It's probably going to go somewhat good. We're going to have some insight. We might have a few leads, but then we're going to have to fine tune and repeat or clone it and use a different angle. And it's just a process. Okay. But what we're about to teach you is in this campaign, you're pretty much maximizing your chances of success. Okay. And sorry for this ugly handwriting, but I posted this on LinkedIn and it got some really good reactions, because this is actually the process. So this is a very simple go-to-market experiment that is marketing led. It has a few components. It has a demand generation component at the beginning. It also gets you leads, so it'll get the salespeople and the C-suite happy because your leads are actually dropping out of it. You're also going to have a lot of insight come out of it, and you can activate an upsell. When you get to that. Okay, so the main component is these three. It's the LinkedIn, the asset stacking, and then the deeper content. And then this is where you would hand it off to sales. Okay. And we're going to dissect just the more important parts of this. Okay. But the meat of it, like the important parts of it, because obviously everything is important on this beautiful flow chart, but the really important parts is the demand generation. And the demand generation is done by creating engaging social media posts that actually work and resonate, and that will bring people into your marketing assets, where it's the interactive assessments, the second circle, which really work right now, because they provide an awesome buying experience. They provide you with a ton of insight. They work very well as a lead generating machine, and it's just great. Okay. But when you're setting up the experiment, this isn't the only thing that you want to have in your pocket. You want to have a few other assets in your pocket, such as, webinars or trainings. You want to have articles, you want to have calculators, because once you start engaging somebody who will probably not be ready to buy yet, you want to always have something to give them that will get them closer to their goals. So you want to always provide the stepping stones across the creek, and not just be dependent on one asset. But of course, for the sake of this experiment, we're saying, okay, keep it simple, stupid. Like, don't go overboard with creating a bunch of stuff only to test the campaign. And then, you wouldn't want to do that. So use what you already have, see what you need to change or transform, and just take it from there. So have a few good assets that you can rely on that have performed in the past, and then just launch it with that. Okay. And the other component is the content hub, something that you're going to experience when we send you the recording of this webinar tomorrow. A content hub is a really cool way to distribute content on an account-based basis. Okay. So like you can create personalized content experiences with content hubs, and you're going to see a simple one tomorrow when we get you the link that has the recording and a couple of other things. Okay. And I don't really want to go into how to activate and sell. That's not really the goal of this training, but it's a fun topic nevertheless. Maybe some other time. Okay. And yeah, examples for the first one. When we talk about generating demand, we're talking about this. Ta-da, here's the LinkedIn post. Okay. And this is actually the LinkedIn post that I shared with you guys in email yesterday. So to get you ready and primed up for this webinar, you got an email from me yesterday, and it shared this little case study and this little process because because it's perfect. It's working so well for us. And, you want to have content that really resonates with people. So you might have seen this post and you might have actually signed up for this training through this post. It got some, it was at some 18,000 impressions and 200 likes. But one of that was Dana and Zoli. Okay, so it's actually 198. But it still did well. Okay, and when we talk about interactive assessments, we're talking about stuff that is similar to this exciting quiz that we did. We tested this little quiz where we said, okay, we're going to help you choose the right strategy that will get you whale-sized deals the fastest. And it was a set of 5 or 6 or 7 questions, and people ended up filling it out. This is actually like the background logic of another quiz, not this one. But this is how we set it up. This is just like a sneak peek into how this platform works, where we create these interactive assessments. So what you have here is people fill out this quiz, and then depending on the results they get put into sort of a bucket or a segment, if you will. And based on the result, they're going to go to a lead capture page, basically, where we ask for their information, their email address, so that we can send them the entire assessment. And from that page, we go to offers that basically help them with their situation. So for example, in this assessment, what we did is that based on how well people performed this is like a type of quiz. So based on the information that you gave us about your company, we told you whether it's 3 campaign types that you want to test if you want to launch account-based marketing, okay? And we actually had a more simplified process than this. So after this, we actually sent everybody to a content hub where we got the exact processes and video walkthroughs and process maps for these campaign types, so they could self-serve themselves and try the campaign. But the main idea is this. Yeah, as I mentioned, Zoe, so these are actually 2 different ones. So this is another quiz, but the logic is the same. Okay. Yeah. So these are the tools in case you were interested. All you consultants out there, check out these tools that Zoe put in the chat. Okay. And if you got any other tools, then feel free to share that with everybody here. Okay. So just a few reasons why we love assessments. One is that right now, we find it to be the fastest way to get prospecting insights and get people to raise their hands, or the people who are ready to buy, they will raise their hands and let you know via these assessments. For those people who are not ready to buy, you can still serve them and give them value. And the reason you can do that is because they're a great hook, and because they are not widely used, and because they are interactive, they're a whole lot more interesting to everybody than a white paper or even a video course or a downloadable slide deck or anything that 99% of B2B companies use. It's valuable to the buyer in a short amount of time. Okay, so that quiz which we put up there, it was the average time spent on that quiz is something like 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes and 34 seconds. So in 2 minutes and 34 seconds, you can actually give them value. You can give them feedback. You can give them direction. And that's something that you cannot do with a white paper or a slide deck or something, because if they only spend 2.5 minutes on it, then they haven't seen anything. They're like, scroll for. So yeah, you just can't give value in 2.5 minutes in long form content. And you can really provide a lot of value with an interactive assessment. Okay. And like the biggest benefit, or one of the biggest benefits, is market research data. So when you have a couple of these quizzes and interactive assessments going, you have a 24/7 way of doing market research and getting insight and buyer information and buyer account information. Okay. And the sales team just goes crazy over this type of information. So if you're in sales and you're sitting on this call, like, this will be a gold mine for you. Because this is the type of stuff that you want to get from discovery calls, but it's very hard to get discovery calls. And it's very easy to get people to fill out an interactive assessment. Okay.
Yeah,
So did you want to add anything to this while I
yeah, no, just really
drink
quickly,
some
I
more
want to say,
vodka?
I think one of the great things about assessment is that it's actually, like what you can put into it is can be actually like deep level content, but you can do it in like a really digestible, easy way. And for a lot of salespeople and for a lot of marketers as well, I think often it's a difficulty to do something that is not long form, some sort of like short form copy or whatever. There is like an easy to digest stuff that you can actually put deep insight into. And so one of the great things about assessments, I think quizzes and such, is that from a customer's perspective, it's quite easy to do them. Some of the questions may require some thinking, but usually you can go through them quite quickly. But at the same time, you're giving such valuable information to the company or whomever you're talking to, that then they will be able to give you, better tailored content and like, better answers. So I think it's just a fun mixture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, as always, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, your objections, perhaps. Okay, so how assessments work. Again, you ask 5 to 12 questions, and based on the answers that people give you, you provide a next step. You provide a diagnosis, a short diagnosis, and you provide a next step for them. And obviously the diagnosis that you provide has to be valuable. Otherwise, you're going to ruin your brand because you'll end up wasting people's time. But so I've heard companies basically tricking people, using a quiz to trick people on a prospecting call. So they would ask them questions and they're like, haha, we're going to tell you the answer if you book a call with us. So do that now. That's kind of shady and you don't want to do that. So this is an interaction with your brand, with your company, and it's a very good opportunity to build trust. So make sure you make it count, make it valuable. Okay. And again, what I said about asset stacking is that you don't want to stop with assets. You want to blend it. And one of the cool ways to do that is to use webinars or trainings, and then lead into a sales motion. Okay, so you don't want to just stop. Of course, if you're doing a pilot campaign, it's totally okay to launch just an assessment and then see how that runs, and then figure out what to do with the data later and what other marketing initiatives you want to like tie onto that. But results really start compounding once you involve other pieces of marketing and you blend it and you create an entire journey. Okay, so that's where the fun really starts. Joshua was asking a question. His question is, my first thought that comes from these assessments is that one can then use gather market research data to create follow-up content like PDFs. Absolutely, Josh. So exactly. Because you're getting valuable market research data and insight, like you're going to have it's probably the best way to be constantly feeding your company with what people want, how people think about stuff, and what people need.
Yeah, and also I think one of the other good things about assessments is sometimes we see it with clients as well, is that they tell us, something that you might have, I think many of you might have encountered before, is that often your clients might not actually know the right questions, not even the right answers, but what question to ask, because some companies may be focusing on features so much, or shiny aspects of a tool or a service that doesn't really give as much value, but it just sounds nice. Everyone is now doing blockchain, however irrelevant blockchain is to their service or tool, everyone is doing blockchain. And so then obviously a lot of customers will be asking about aspects of like blockchain that might not even add any value to the actual service. And so one of the great things about assessments is that you sort of give the right questions into the mouths of your customers, and they can basically ask you what you want them to ask you, and then give the right answers to that. So that's I think a fun aspect as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So what sort of results can you expect? This is our like initial results for the very first quiz led or assessment led campaign that we did. And so again, like we've had more recent results, the one that I shared with you a bit earlier, the one that got 90,000 euros of ARR. But this is like the initial test where we set out to do a few posts that generated some demand and led people into an assessment. And that post got about 10,000 people to look at it. And we've had 240 people start the assessment, 66 complete it. And this was, I think, in a time frame of about a month. Okay. So it's not huge numbers. This was an experiment. But this is about what you can initially expect. Okay. And then actually 3 MQLs ended up dropping out of this sequence, and one of them, and 1 SQL. So 3 MQLs and an SQL who then actually wanted to work with us, and they were asking about pricing and whatnot. Okay. And this was relatively little effort because we had a good Facebook profile. So we were using my Facebook profile, which isn't huge, but at least, it's the right people who are engaging with our content. So out of the 10,000 posts, 10,000 impressions, we were able to get 3 MQLs and an SQL. And like somebody, when I talked about this, I said, well, on the one hand, it's like not a lot because, 4 MQLs, like what is that? But, but if you just consider the fact that this is an automated system that will, work for every 3 or 4 LinkedIn posts, or however often you reach 10,000 people on LinkedIn. And if you think about automating this and scaling this, then it's a different story, right? Okay, so how do you set this thing up? That's the big question. Okay, so that's part 2 of why you're here. Okay, and I think we're going to go about just, we promised to stop in like just under 75 minutes, and I think we'll be good. So we'll go to about 6:15 European time, and whatever that is in the States and in Asia. so we'll go about 25 minutes more. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Here's another question app we just started testing. Video Ask. Cool. Got to check it out. Yeah. Is it really the video version of Typeform? So awesome.
Yeah, I think it's basically the same tool, but just the video version. It's quite fun.
Check it out. Yeah, definitely. We'll check it out. Thank you so much, Tony. Okay. Yeah. So up to now, I'll just, to use your time the best. Right now, we're going to go into like how to implement this in your company. And this is for you if you're an in-house sales or marketing person and you want to do this thing in-house, then we'll have the steps for you. We'll also show you how we do this as an agency and what we give clients and for how much. And if you're an agency or a consultancy, you'll want to pay attention because, you can just copy what we do and optimize it and do the same. Okay. Like once you test it for yourself, feel free to take it and use this for companies because we want to help you with this transformation from a sales-led world to a marketing-led world. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be better for everybody. Okay. Right. Okay. So this is how we set things up. What we tell people who are interested is that what we're going to do if we work together is that first we got to get a clear understanding of your client acquisition strategy. Okay. And based on that, the first thing we're going to create is a demand gen boost. So we're going to take a look at what really works in your market, what topics stick that are relevant for the thing that you want to sell at the end, be it a software or technology service or, software development or whatever it is. And then we're going to get into creating thought leadership content. And that's usually going to be on LinkedIn, or if you have any other platforms that are set up right and that work, we're obviously going to do that. Then we get into the lead generation and the enhanced buyer experience. And we're going to start creating an interactive test calculator or assessment. So we're going to set up one of these things that we've been talking about for you. We're going to build it for you. And it's going to get you all the valuable information and insight and account information. So you're going to get company specific information. And these leads will be easy to work with. Okay. And this is to make the sales team happy and everybody else. Then we're going to build a follow-up sequence, because you don't, as we said, you don't want to stop at this assessment. And so we're going to want to engage people further down the line when they start engaging with your marketing asset. And one of the things we're going to do is we're also going to set up a webinar to convert prospects to sales qualified leads and to help you hand them off to sales. Okay, so that's two assets that we're building for you right there. It's the webinar and it's the interactive assessment, which can be a calculator. Okay, it's like either way. There are several types. Okay, what are some of the components? So this is the general process, the general idea. Okay, so like take a look at what you need to be talking about. Then we create content for you, like a short burst of content, so that we can get people into your assessment and then get people from your assessment into your interactive training or webinar or whatnot. Okay. And if you want to do this in-house, or if you want to offer this as a service, this is what you should be this is what, like, these are the tasks or the steps that you should be looking at. Okay, so obviously you've got to get like super clear on the ICP. Like, nothing happens without having a good sense of who your ideal customer is. Okay, so if you don't have that down, you need to. The second step is creating a content plan, because I mentioned that, we're going to start with boosting demand. So we're going to create, for most of the companies, it's going to be LinkedIn posts. For some other companies, it's going to be something else, maybe newsletters or whatnot, but we usually start with writing 10 LinkedIn posts. And if you have active profiles, meaning that you are, need to be like a superstar on LinkedIn, but if you have people who are, good connections and engage with you, and you have the relevant connections on LinkedIn, then with either one profile or a couple of profiles, 10 LinkedIn posts will do. Okay. Then what we do is, or what you have to do, or what somebody has to do, is to create an interactive assessment. And these days we use bucket.io, which is by far my favorite tool of choice. It's something that you can't really sign up for right now because of the way they work. There's a wait list, but we're able to use our account to create assets for you. The other thing is that we're going to do is planning the webinar, which is going to lead from the quiz into your training. So we're going to outline that, and we're going to help you prepare slides, and we're going to just help you do a good job on that webinar. The sixth component is setting up registration and the add to calendar component. So there are a bunch of landing pages, registration pages, and everything else that has to be built when you're doing these quizzes and the webinars, and we take care of all that. So if you're looking at in-house people or other agencies, you need to have people who can set these things up, get things straight with the marketing automation and all of these things. All right. And then we write 3 priming messages pre-webinar, because it's like a really important thing that you don't just do a webinar and then hope for people to show up. You need to get people excited about the webinar and make sure that they show up. So we write 3 priming email messages or LinkedIn messages that you can send to people before or leading up to the event. And then we'll also have 2 follow-up messages post-webinar. And then we will also create one of these content hubs that I was talking about that you'll get to see once you get the recording for this thing, for this training, because that's going to be in a content hub. And what that can do is it's going to help you initiate post webinar sales motion. Okay, so it's a hugely important piece of the puzzle. And then we also go as far as advising you on what to do to activate the right leads. So for leads who show intent and for whom it's the right time and they fit your ICP, we advise on how to activate them, meaning how to get them on a sales call. Okay, so that's pretty much. Oh yeah, and then of course the next steps to optimize and scale the campaign, like after we're done. Okay, and we do this in 26 days. Okay, if you are planning to do this with an in-house team, I suggest you plan for a quarter, meaning 90 days. Okay, but by the time you start to build up experience to the degree that we have, you're going to need less than a month to launch this. Okay. But for the first one, even for the simple one, plan for 90 days. If you already have webinars in place and if you're already doing webinars, then obviously it's going to be shorter because that's not something that you'll have to figure out. And you probably have the automations and everything else set up for that. So that can help. But if you're building this from scratch and you don't have webinars yet, then plan to build this in-house in about a quarter. So 3 months. Okay. What's your investment? And this is relevant. This is the money that we ask from clients if they choose to work with us. If you're building this with your own team or with another agency, the numbers are still going to be relevant. And I'm going to help you with the numbers to gauge the cost of this if you're building this in-house. Okay. So again, as I said, you will start seeing results in 26 calendar days. 26 days is the time it'll take us to set this up for you. And obviously, the webinar might happen after this time, but of course there will be like a follow-up period, but you're going to be able to launch in 26 days. Okay, the value of this whole thing, if you think about it, like think about your average customer value and just think about how much easier it is to get customers this way. And put the two together, even if you don't have like specific numbers, but the value of this system is easily in the 6 figures. Like the short-term ROI is easily 6 figures for anybody who is on this call who has, a high ACV clients and a high ACV business. Okay, so usually all it takes is just one new prospect turning into a client to get massive ROI, because obviously your investment is not going to be 6 figures. It's going to be a lot less. Okay. You will also use this system to re-engage previously closed lost prospects. Okay, and Zoli did this really cool with a different type of asset, but with a campaign that is similar to this for one of our cybersecurity SaaS clients, where we said, okay, let's set up this campaign and let's engage people who are like sleeping people or who have dropped out of your pipeline for whatever reason, or who are inactive, and we sort of like mobilized them and got 2 new sales conversations going. So it's really good for that as well. So that just adds to the ROI that you will be able to build this once and then use it in several sales scenarios. Okay, when we do this for clients, then these clients are usually on a retainer, which ranges from 7 to 14.5K per month in our case. And we usually, work a bit over a month or a bit under a month on one of these sprints. So I guess it could translate to a price tag, which is somewhere between 7 and 14,000 euros or dollars, or however you want to take it. But for this sprint that we are offering you for a limited time right now, the investment is going to be different. Let me stop because Agnes has a good question. Where does lead scoring sit amongst this? Is it still required? When can or are NQLs be passed over to sales? Okay, here's the thing. The way you do lead scoring right now may or may not fit with this approach, okay? Because the way a lot of people do lead scoring is to, assign values based on what pages they visited on the website or other interactions. Now, you can easily, I'm guessing that you can easily expand that existing system and include interactions with your assessment, with your webinars, with everything you're building here. Okay, so you can easily add it to that. To be fair, we never advise lead scoring just because, and the main reason is that we work with clients who have high average customer values, and we usually run account-based marketing campaigns and initiatives, and they're like, everything is so personalized that it just doesn't make sense to use lead scoring. We have like different indicators, but we never add them up in a score. If you have a lower value SaaS, for example, in the hundreds or thousands of dollars per month or per year, then yeah, it by all means, it makes sense to actually automate this and actually score, because your campaigns are not going to be like one-on-one, totally personalized the way that they are with our clients. Okay, I see that answered your question. So good. Okay, yeah. So let's talk about the money, the ROI. So even with our clients, like 7 to 14K for one of these things as part of a retainer, you only need like one new client to make huge to get a huge ROI. Okay, and especially if you go and optimize and scale this thing, like it's just unbelievable what it can do. But even if you don't get any clients, just the insight and the intelligence, like the market research value that you get from this, like that's gold. So imagine going to like a market research agency and asking for any sort of research. Like it's going to cost a bunch of money and a lot of time. But here you're getting the research, you're getting the insight, you're getting the leads, and you're creating a buying experience that is not like what people are used to from your competitors. All right. And yeah, I want to mention LinkedIn, like just the fact that we take your LinkedIn account into, okay, so we start creating LinkedIn posts for you to generate demand on LinkedIn. And, I just wanted to show you that this is my account for August, where again, I was out for like 3 weeks of August, but I managed to get 19 posts in August. And from the previous month, which wasn't bad in itself either, we managed to get a 53% lift in views, like a huge lift in shares. Also, the engagement rate is up like 277% from the previous month. So if all you did was, gave us, write 10 LinkedIn posts, then like that would really, like that in itself would pay off as well. Zola, you wanted to ask something.
No, I just wanted to say that.
Up.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think Josh had a great point there, and that's something that I thought about actually elaborating on before for Agnes's question, because the question was like, when you do lead scoring, and I think, or when are some of the MQLs passed over to sales, and yeah, I think Josh's answer is great in the sense that it's not just it's not just quantitative lead scoring that you can do, but you can actually do qualitative lead scoring in the sense that basically after some of your prospects, and it's going to be more focused prospects. So it's not going to be just not large number of people, but with ABM it's going to be a few that you focus on. You're actually going to see the intent. So as they go through these assessments and as they get the content hub and whatever, and the content pieces and assets that you want to target them with, it's sort of going to be obvious when they should be passed over to sales, because you're going to get the intent from their side. And it's not just going to be like numbers and, so now, based on this and this data, you can now move them on, or you can attribute this data to their intent. It's going to be more obvious than that as they go through these assets, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good ad. Yeah, thank you, both you and Josh. Yeah, thanks. Right. Okay, yeah, so we talked about LinkedIn. So again, you can read this if you want to. I don't want to go through the whole thing. But the thing is that this campaign, the entire thing, and agencies are going to hate us right now. For a short while, we're doing this for 3,980 euros. Okay, so that's the 26-day sprint, and you get 10 LinkedIn posts, you get an assessment that we build, landing pages, exit pages, lead generation, everything. We're also going to help you put together a webinar. We're going to create the registration pages if you don't have one. We're going to create the email sequences leading up to the webinar. We're going to create the post interaction for the webinar. And we're not done, because we're creating a content hub for you. Okay, and even after the content hub, we're going to talk about how to engage the people who look ready to buy and who are almost raising their hand, and what to do with the ones who aren't yet. Okay, so obviously this is a crap ton of work, huge value. And for the reason I'm saying for a limited time is because this is around or below our break-even point. So doing all of this for 3,900 euros is, number one, it gets a lot of you consultants and agencies saying, screw you guys, you're like completely ruining the market. I mean, like we should be charging like 3 times this, which is when clients are paying us. But here's the thing. The reason we can do this right now is because this is a very well-defined sprint. And obviously, you're not going to be able to go bonkers on what type of landing page graphics and whatever you want to have. It's going to be on brand for you, but there are a couple of restrictions, like, that if we want to launch this fast, then we have to make it fast, and it's not going to be the fanciest thing which you'll ever build. And it shouldn't be, like, it's not supposed to. Even if you're building this in-house, it's supposed to be quick and dirty for you to get results, okay? And the other thing is that what we're working on right now, and our bigger vision for this, as I said, is really aiding the transformation from sales-led growth to marketing led growth. So what we're looking at is we want to get experience with a bunch of companies, like as many companies as possible. We want to work with 15 to 20 companies in the short term so that we have relevant statistics on what works and what doesn't, and what works in different segments of technology. And for us, like, this information, this experience is gold, because then we're going to be able to set benchmarks, then we're going to have statistics, and we're going to be able to assist you that much better. So that is why for a short while, we have decided to basically drop the price, and I'm just hoping that not many of our clients see this, Zoli. I don't want to get these weird questions tomorrow. I don't want like clients to sign up for this, but
luckily I didn't see anyone on the calls.
And so, yeah, just to like, for you consultants and agencies, like, don't worry, like, this isn't going out in public. So you'll have to sit through like 50 minutes of this webinar to arrive at this offer. So like, we're not writing this on billboards, frankly, because we couldn't handle the demand either. So that's one of the things that, number one, you have to qualify, because we only want to do this with companies with whom we are sure we can get results with or for. And that means that, you need to have product market fit. You need to have a solid product that does a good job for customers. If you're a dev company, like, you need to have a few pieces in place in terms of sales and everything, because if we think that we're not able to do a very good job for you, then we probably don't want to work with you in this sprint. We'll be happy to set up marketing and growth for you, but we don't want to take your money and create a system that's not going to end up delivering leads for your team, or that you can't do anything with those leads. Okay, so there is like a qualification call before we get into things. And by the way, if like you want a payment option, then you can either pay this upfront, or there is 2 installments of 2,200 euros, one on launch day and the other one at day 14, just if that's more convenient, because I know for some companies it's more convenient. And in addition to this being a rather good price, I just wanted to get back. So dear consultants and agencies, like, don't worry, like, when we start going public about these marketing mechanism and assets that we want to build, like, the price is not going to be that, so we're not ruining anybody's market or game here. This is because we're just a few people here, that's why we have this offer. It is also, I've mentioned, on a first come first serve basis, so you have to qualify, and it's first come first serve. We're only able to take that many companies because we're not outsourcing the creation of the systems to the Philippines or wherever, but it's going to be Zoli and me personally consulting with you and building our internal team build for you. We're only able to work with so many companies. So that's like the catch. I guess it's not a catch, but it's just a circumstance. Okay, so the other thing we've decided to do is, because we have a good amount of practice in this, we have good results, we've tested this with clients, and we're pretty sure that if we do take you on as a client, we'll get you kick-ass results. So we have this guarantee where if somewhere down the line, I think up till day 10, we start working together and you're like, nah, I don't like the direction that this is going, you can just quit and get all your payments back If it's like one installment or two installments, we'll refund those installments, and you get to keep whatever content and whatever else we've created for you. Zoli, do you think we're fair?
Yeah, sorry, you were just lagging for a second there and I wasn't sure.
Person, yeah. So we make this as like fair and easy as possible. So you risk nothing, because if we don't think that we can do a good job for you, we're just not going to take you on. If we do take you on and you're not liking what you're seeing, then you get your money back and you keep all the content that we've created up to that point. Okay, so what we can do, if you're interested in this, is shoot us an email to hi@clear.hu, or just check out our website, clearb2b.com, and let's set up a call. Or you can go to the Content Hub, which Dana will send out to you tomorrow. There you can book a call with me on Calendly. And if you qualify, if we think we can do a good job for you, then on a first come, first serve basis, you're gonna get in a line, and within probably 2 months, we will be able to start your project. And then it ends on day 26 with all the deliverables. And of course, we don't just like shut the door on you. We have follow-up calls, and we'll see what needs to be tweaked. So it's not like we're tossing you out in the dark after 26 days. We'll still be there for questions and whatnot, but you'll have everything you'll need by day 26. Okay, that's pretty much it. I don't have any more slides. And if you got questions, shoot them here. Let me know, and I'm going to stop the screen share. What do you say? Yeah, Zoli, do you have anything to add to what we talked about?
No, honestly, I think we pretty much covered everything. I was just wondering if anyone has any questions with regards to like the differences between like, sales and marketing, like how we are implementing this, or anything that might have not been as obvious and clear. Yeah, thank you for the feedback.
Yeah. One thing, if you're an agency or consultancy listening to this, like we didn't plan on dropping it here, but we want to have a setup where we can actually teach you guys to do this for your own and then for clients. And so rather than us doing the work for you, there's going to be an option to like work with us where we teach you in a workshop. And if there are any in-house sales or marketing people, then yeah, of course you can join if this is of interest to you. But what we found was that most people don't have the resources in-house to build this. But if you're an agency and you want to take part in this transformation from taking companies from sales-led to marketing-led, and you want to do this thing, then by all means, we'll be happy to like set up a workshop where we actually go in depth and share our screen and have you build your own thing on the fly as we're there. So it's probably going to be a 2 or 3 day workshop. We'll set up everything, and you'll be ready to test this for yourself and then do this for your clients. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so glad you were here. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.